Appeals, please listen to the rules and procedures that will follow for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Town of Babylon Zoning Board of Appeals. The following is the procedure that will be followed tonight. The matters will be called in the order they appear on the calendar, with adjourned matters being called at the end of the regularly scheduled matters. Matters cannot be heard prior to their published scheduled time. When your matter is called, please submit the affidavit of posting to the secretary and proceed to the podium and give your name and address. The chairperson will then swear you in and read into the record information we have from your application, comments from various town departments, and any correspondence received on your application. The chairperson will then ask you to make whatever presentation you wish to make to the board. After you have made your presentation, the board will ask whatever questions the board deems appropriate, and then we will ask for comments from the public. If you wish to speak for or against an application, we ask that you wait until you're acknowledged. Come forward, give us your name and address, tell us where your property is in relation to the property that's in question tonight, and then please direct your comments to the board, not the applicant or the applicant's representative. We have to keep a record, and we cannot do that if there are people talking over each other or cross conversations. If someone has spoken for or against an application, and they have said exactly the same thing that you wish to say, it will have the same force and effect in the record if you give your name and address, are sworn in, and say that you join in those comments. If you have anything additional to say, please don't hesitate to do so, but keep in mind that you will be given only one opportunity to speak. After the public has spoken, the board may ask the applicant to come back to answer any questions that may have come up as a result of the public comments, or for the applicant to summarize. When the applicant comes back to answer any additional questions, if that happens, that does not start a second round of public comments. Once the matter has been heard, various things may occur. The board may decide the application immediately. It may reserve decision. If the board reserves decision, that does not mean the matter is approved or denied. It just means that the board needs more time to decide, may want to go out and look at the site again, or might want to review the documents and testimony further before making a decision. In either event, the applicant will receive the board's decision in writing shortly after the board makes its decision. If the application is approved, that does not mean that you can then go ahead and start construction or whatever it is that you requested from the board. You will have to wait for the building permit to be obtained from the building department before your go-ahead. On some occasions, the matter may be continued for another night. If it is continued, in most cases it will be for the submission of documents, a new survey, new plans, or something of that nature. If that's the case, no one needs to come back on the new date. The documents will be submitted and no further testimony will be taken. On rare occasions, a matter may be continued for future testimony. If that's the case, then people would have to come back to testify. If matters are adjourned at an open meeting on the scheduled date of hearing, no further notice need be given unless specifically required by the board on the date the adjournment is granted. 3 rules that may affect your ability to proceed tonight. 1. If the sign was not posted for 10 days, we cannot hold the hearing tonight. 2. If you commence this proceeding while you own the property, but no longer own the property, and you are here now to continue with the application, you will need either the written consent of the new owner or the new owner to be present for the hearing. This situation could come about if you sold your house or building, money was held in escrow at closing for a certificate of occupancy or permit, and you're here tonight to clear that up. Lastly, if your application is a commercial application and it's other than a renewal, and there is more than one tenant in the building, then you need your landlord to be here. Is there any applicant that has any difficulty with those situations and would need an adjournment tonight?
Is there anyone that would need an adjournment? Please rise and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we begin, there are two adjournments on our calendar tonight. Application 24-231 of Auto Pro, property located in Deer Park. That is being adjourned to January the 9th, 2025. Anybody here on that application? You're here on that?
Yes.
So you're adjourning the application?
Requesting the variance.
Are you the applicant?
Yeah. No, this is for Auto Pro. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. And the other application is being adjourned is application 24-207, Five-Star Roto Body, property located in West Babylon. That's also being adjourned to January the 9th, 2025. Is anybody here on that application? Okay. First application tonight is application 24-232 of Michael Goodbody as trustee for Goodbody House Trust. Property located in Deer Park?
Yeah.
That's you, okay. I need your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Michael A. Goodbody at 98 West 9th Street, Deer Park, New York, 11729.
Okay, and do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, we have a planning division memo dated December 5th, 2024. Environmental control memo dated September 9th, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. A survey by Elizabeth McQuilkin dated September 13th, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map, and,
Chairman, there's 10 photographs.
okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
Yes, I'm requesting permission to leave my my deck as is and the awning that's over the deck, along with my my shed that was made by my father, home-built shed. Both the deck has been there for approximately 40 years, and the shed for approximately 30 years.
Okay, thank you. Turn the hearing over to Mr. Correcchia.
Good evening, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
How long has the deck's been there for? About 40 years, you say?
The deck about 40 years, about
Did
since
you,
ne-
did
yeah.
you build the deck, or did you bought the home that way?
My father.
Okay. And what brings you here this evening? Just to legalize the properties for sale or something?
For sale, yes.
For sale? Okay.
Correct.
So, there's no possibility that we could cut that deck back 2 feet to be in line with the home? Could eliminate a variance that way?
I just updated the deck so it would be approved for the CO, the underneath of the deck. So it would be somewhat difficult for me to do that at this point.
So if you would agree to not further enclose the deck on the sides or anything,
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
okay, and if the shed was ever to be moved and relocated in a conforming location?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Mr.
will.
Chairman, I have no further questions. Sorry. Excuse me. The awning above the deck, when was that installed? At the same time, or?
Yeah, at the same time. My father put that up right after the deck.
Okay,
It preserved the decks, that's why it lasted so long.
all right. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. Good.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application 24-232 with the condition that if the shed ever had to be reconstructed, it would be rebuilt in a conforming location, and that the rear deck and overhang should not be further enclosed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Next application is application 24-226 of Maritza Rosado, property located in West Babylon. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Capucci, C-A-P-P-U-C-C-I. I work with Todd O'Connell Architects, 1200 Veterans Highway, Suite 120, Hauppauge, New York. I do just want to submit some photographs for you, just for
Sure.
additional support.
Sure.
affidavit should have been sent in to you guys, I believe, last week.
Mine is up.
We'll need that affidavit of posting, so.
Let me just leave it to my file quick.
Okay, we don't need it right now, that's fine.
Okay.
Do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, for the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024. Environmental Control memo dated December 9th, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. A survey by William Simmons dated May 13th, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map. And
Mr. Chairman, there's 8 photographs and a site plan by Todd O'Connell dated August 13th, 2024.
would you like to tell us about the application?
Sure, so we are here today requesting relief for building area. Building area is 15%, we're asking for 17.7%, very minimal. We are on a undersized lot. This area is supposed to have a 12,500 square foot lot. We're about 9,900 or 9,500 square feet. So that causes the lot coverage or the building coverage increase. We are proposing to put a secondary stair to the second floor. We are looking to do a accessory permit review after this approval, hopefully today, for that stair. I know the engineer or planning board had comments on that, but we will be going for an accessory apartment review board, depending on the outcome of this one. The shed has been there for quite a few years. It is kind of similar in the characteristics of the neighborhood. A lot of detached structures and other accessory structures are close, especially the one that you could see even in the photographs that I have or the photographs that you have posted up there. You could see the neighboring detached garage is about a foot or two away from the property. So we are requesting to leave the shed as is where we have it there. Any further questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, turn the hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
How are you?
Very good.
Good. So you're doing a rear dormer? Is that?
We're doing the rear dormer to the upper back corner of the house,
Okay,
correct.
and where is the stairway going, on the east side or the west or the north side?
The stairway it would be on the north side. It's going on the north side on that side yard property, right on the corner, extending out to the rear yard.
That will be the only access to the apartment?
And the inside stair,
You'll have interior access to the...
correct, yes.
Okay, that will be one of their requirements.
Yeah, there's an interior stair in there now that's going to remain, and then we have a secondary exterior access we want to propose.
Okay, are you aware that the fence is on the town's property, the right-of-way?
Yes, we read that from the planning department, and we'll have no problem pushing that fence back to where it needs to comply and give it the right proper height and everything as well. We did explore some options as putting the stair towards the back of the house, but we didn't want to impede on the house and the siding and the aesthetics of the house by putting the stair right up against the house. So that's why we just have kind of touching the back corner of the house and kind of extruding out past the house. She did just have a whole bunch of pavers and patio right in the back area that we want to try to preserve and keep. So that's also another reason why of that location. And that's why we're requesting a 10.3 side yard setback.
Gotcha. All right, if the shed were ever to come down and needed to be replaced, would you agree to put it in a conforming location?
Yes, that's not a problem.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are no? Wanna hold it? Yeah, okay. Okay, we're going to close the hearing, reserve decision. You'll get the decision in the mail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night.
I knew that. I knew that. Next application is application 24227 of Michael and Heidi Mayer, property located in Copeg.
Hi, how are you?
Name and address for the record, please.
Heidi Maya, 36 Park Place, Copeg, New York, 11726.
Okay, do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024, Environmental Control memo dated December 9th, 2024. Approve this application will not result in significant impact. Survey by Jason Lettingham dated May 5th, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map. And
Chairman, there's 5 photographs and a site plan by Richard Wills dated July 2nd, 2024.
would you like to tell us? Would you like to tell us about the application?
Basically, we have a garage that is standing that is pretty much ready to come down. We had raccoons damage it and just wear and tear. It was built in 1971 with the wood shingles, and we're just looking to replace exactly what's there.
I'll turn the hearing over to Mr. Della Vecchia.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Is the garage going to be for storage use only, or are you guys gonna plan on putting a car there?
It's primarily storage use.
Gotcha. If it's storage use only, can it be located a little bit further off from the west side lot line?
Would rather not, because it is in line with our driveway, so like when we take out our snow blower and stuff like that to do the driveway, it goes right out into our driveway, and we have a long driveway. Or if I go to BJ's, or when I back up the truck and like put extra drinks and stuff, we just do it right into the garage. The gate opens and it goes right to the garage. Otherwise, it goes on, it's to the back of the house.
Would you agree to the following conditions: that no habitable space be permitted in the garage,
Yes,
no commercial work permitted in the garage?
yes,
And no heating or plumbing in the garage?
exactly, no, yes.
Okay, I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve application 24-227 with the 3 conditions: that no habitable space be permitted in the garage, no commercial work, and no heating, plumbing in the garage.
All in favor? Aye. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Next application is application 24234 of Dunkin' Donuts, property located in Farmingdale. No Dunkin' Donuts? No samples, no nothing? Coffee?
Denied.
Okay. Next application is application 24228 of All My Sons Realty Corp., property located in Deer Park. Another one. Huh? Really? All My Sons Realty, property located in Deer Park. Okay. Move this right along. Next application is application, oh wait, there was also 5. Number 6 was adjourned to January the 9th, 2025. Application number 7 on the agenda is application 24236 of CTE Properties LLC.
I'm here.
Property located in Wyandanch. Want to do the other 2 while you're here?
No, not necessarily. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Nicole Blanda. I'm an attorney at Bazell, Blanda, and Visconti with offices at 535 Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
Okay. For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024, Environmental Control memo dated December 10th, 2024. If we were to approve this application, it needs a negative declaration. A fire marshal's report dated December 12th, 2024 has a valid permit. A survey by Pinnacle dated October 8th, 2024, tax map acting as an area map, and
Mr. Chairman, there's 3 photographs and a site plan by Charles Philip Lembo dated September 2024.
okay. Would you like to tell us about the application?
I'm here tonight on behalf of CTE Properties LLC, doing business as Custom Truck One Source, seeking a special permit as a new tenant on this site for the same use that has been approved since 1995. So we're seeking to continue the use as a public garage for auto body and repair, as well as the outside storage of trucks and vehicles in 2 front yards. Previously, this site was operating under A&D Maintenance, Inc., and again, we got renewals over the years since 1995. Not me personally in 1995, but since 1995. We're also seeking a parking variance tonight. So the property's on the south side of Wyandanch Avenue. It is west of Mount Avenue. It has an irregular shape to it. It's kind of like a backwards Z, but it is over 2 acres. It's at 2.24 acres. The only access to the site is on Wyandanch Avenue. It is zoned GA Industrial, and it's improved with the building that you see there. It's 20,000 square feet. The building has not changed over the years. So the site has previously been used for auto body and repair for cars and trucks. It was recently approved in May of 2023. At that time, the board also asked that we legalize the barbed wire on the site, and we did go to planning board, and we did obtain approval and a CO in September of 2024 for the barbed wire. The outside storage is in 2 areas on the site. That was also previously approved. However, there's a difference this time around because we are seeking to expand the outside storage a little bit. So some years ago, the property owner did abandon a portion of King Street, which is on the westerly side of the property. And so as part of the abandonment now, the new tenant would like to use the extra space for outside storage because it is part of the property, and it just makes that area a little bit easier to use and maneuver vehicles around. So this additional outside storage is what is now creating the change in our parking calcs because it's 1 per 700 square feet. Previously, the site was approved with a parking variance, reducing the number of spaces required from 73 to 60. So now, because of the additional storage area, if you look at the northwesterly section, it was previously roughly 13,870, and so now that outside storage area is 20,820. There's also a small area in the southeasterly portion that's about 7,520 square feet. That's not changing. That outside storage area is remaining the same. But what that does, again, is it increases our parking requirement to 82 stalls, and we're providing 56. But the building has not expanded, and to clarify, really the operation is not expanding per se. There's 18 employees on site, most of which are technicians. A few work in the office. So 56 spaces is more than enough to accommodate the 18 employees. This isn't a public garage in the sense where, like, I can bring my car and get it serviced, or a customer is going to sit there and wait, and you might need some additional parking. This is service of, heavy vehicles, like larger trucks, and things of that nature. And so because they are larger, they do require a little more room on the site for the outside storage. They can't all be inside the building. And so that's why we're here tonight and requesting that additional parking variance. I did discuss with the applicant the request in the planning memo to restripe the area. I believe it's on the south side and the east side. There's like 25 stalls on the south side and then maybe 11 on the east side, and they are agreeable to restriping those spaces as planning had requested. There are no open complaints. Again, this has been like this for about 30 years now, and they're simply looking to do the same thing and be a good, resident in the town of Babylon. And I did note that the fire marshal did approve their permit. And I'm sure, you can look at the aerial, the surrounding uses are quite similar in this zoning district. So if the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. We're good. Make a motion to adopt a negative declaration on application 24-236.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve application 24-236 with a condition that the parking lot be striped. And, restripe, and plus public garage That was filed already?
Yeah, many, many years ago.
Many years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure that those are good. Or this is a new tenant, so he needs to redo those? Or is that runs with the plot?
Yeah.
Usually it's
They
supposed-
run with the land and the
Yeah, it
use.
runs with the land, never mind, okay, that's good. Okay. Oh, a term limit, yeah. So, we're doing the same thing, same...
We are, and you know what? The son of the prior tenant is actually, Mr. Flegel is still operating there. He's now the operations manager. So, I mean, if we could do more than the usual 1 year, it is the same exact use. It just got reapproved in '23.
I'll make a motion to approve it for 2 years.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, very much
Okay, thank
appreciated. Have a good night.
You too. Bobuds. Is there anybody here, hold on a second, on application 24226, property located in West Babylon? Rosado, last name? And, oh, no, we did Rosado, never mind.
It's 4 and 5.
4 and 5, where's 4? Okay. So 24228, All My Sons Realty. Come on up. Name and address for the record?
Orlando, so I'm the expediter for the Joe Mazzaro. He's not here now.
Say that again?
I'm the expediter for Joe Mazzaro. He's not here now. He's not yet here. But my name is Orlando Salazar, 127 Helmy Street in Brentwood, New York, 11717. Are you waiting for the property owner to attend? Yeah, he told me it's going to be at 6:30.
Okay, so then you're going to wait for him, so that we're going to hold this then,
All right.
all right?
Thank you.
We'll recall it. The other one was what? Dunkin' Donuts. Anybody here from Dunkin' Donuts? Still no donuts, okay. Next application is application 24219, Bo Buds LLC, property located in West Babylon. Name and address for the record.
For the applicant, Gerard Glass, 72 East Main Street in Babylon.
For the record, we have a planning division memo dated December 5th, 2024. Environmental control memo dated December 10th, 2024. If approved, this application will need a negative declaration. A fire marshal's report dated December 12th. No access to the building. The site was previously the subject of demolition without building permits, so you're going to need get the fire marshal there. Survey by Francis Watson, dated January 23rd, 2024. Tax map acting as an area map, and
Chairman, there's no photographs, but there's a site plan by Stephen Feldman dated July 29, 2024.
okay. What would you like to tell us about the application?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. With me this evening are Anthony Quintal, one of the owners of the business, Fred Pulcinella, who's the operations manager, Haley Jackson from Island Wine Engineering, who's going to speak briefly to the site plan, as well as Steve Fellman from SRF Architects, who will speak very briefly to the architectural aspects of the application. I've handed up a business plan, a site plan, photographs, satellite view survey, floor plan, an architectural plan, and a certified copy of the deed in connection with this application that are contained in the packet with the exhibit tabs. This application seeks a special exception, nothing more. I want to clarify at the outset that the plan has been modified as it is developed with the back and forth with your planning department, and ultimately, as the handouts that are addendums to the site plan that I've passed up indicate, there is no outdoor storage in connection with this application anymore. It originally did have outdoor storage of the delivery vehicles. But that is now eliminated, and as a result, the application solely seeks a special exception. It doesn't need a parking variance, and it doesn't need any approval for outside storage.
Okay.
The plan amendments just removed the notes that indicated that the delivery vehicles were going to park outside. So we would ask the application to be amended to that extent. It eliminates the second, third, and fourth variants that's referenced on planning's memo tonight.
Okay. All right, so I'll make a motion on application 24-219 to eliminate variances 2, 3, and 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The premises is G-zoned. The lot area is 19,000 square foot. The building area is currently 8,300 square foot. There's a proposal as part of this plan to remove 800 square feet of the building, which will leave us with 7,500 square feet. Only 1,600 of that is retail, which leaves a large storage area for interior positioning of not only employee vehicles, but also any delivery vehicles associated with the premises. And it kind of cleans the application up in terms of, where the delivery vehicles are going to park, where the employees are going to park, and things of that nature. The site is mid-block on Lamar, which is directly abuts the landfill. It is probably the most industrial, one of the most industrial sections of the village. The building's a warehouse. It's situated among heavy industrial uses, including uses that are automotive uses, topsoil screening plants, and those type of outdoor storage uses, allowing outdoor storage of equipment materials proliferate in this neighborhood. The building and the lot are in need of improvement. They are tired, but it is consistent with what goes on in that neighborhood, as you well know. Planning Board commented when we appeared before them for the informational hearing that this would be a welcome change to sort of invigorate or hopefully start the invigoration of that neighborhood, and we agree. The use causes no noise, no environmental impact, as evidenced by planning's comments. There are no odors. Refuse is kept inside. The plan on the interior is a complete facelift. On the exterior is a complete facelift. It will include landscaping, lot, facade, and we do expect that it would be the nicest building on the block when we're done, which is not a high bar to attain in this this neighborhood, I should say. So the application, when it was heard by the Planning Board, it's informational only, so it's kind of like a weird figment of your new code. And the application was viewed favorably. They had positive things to say. It would be an improvement to the neighborhood. In the package that you have is the business plan, and I would be remiss if I didn't explain to you briefly that these are experienced operators. We've had a lot of people come forward and are online for these type of uses in this neighborhood. Some of them are solo operators that have never done this before. That is not the case here. These are experienced operators with strong local ties as a team. Collectively, the team has been involved in the opening and operation of dozens of these types of facilities throughout the country. This store is different than other ones you've probably seen because it involves a kiosk system. The kiosk system is being used because these operators believe it to be more efficient. There's literally a pathway you walk through. You go to the kiosk, you can see it, it's in the exhibits, and you place your order. Generally, the people that come to these stores are more informed as to the product that they want because they can't sit at a counter as with the other uses that you've seen and have a discussion about what to expect from the product. That's been their experience thus far, at least. The advantages of this system are security-based and also based upon the fact that the people that come to the store are in and out in 10 minutes. It's faster. There are 17 parking spots. There is an overhead door. One of the spots is in front of the door. The plan is, because deliveries vehicles must load and unload inside, and are planned to comply with the law in that respect, is to have the manager's car parked in that spot so it can be moved. The deliveries will be loaded at the beginning of the day, but it is probable that they will come back during the course of the day or at some point during the day for other deliveries, and they will conceivably need to reload. The plan's been reviewed by the town's parking expert. It's been, essentially compliant. Typical utility service for gas, electric, cable, and waste. Haley Jackson is here this evening from our engineering company to speak very briefly to the site plan.
How you doing?
Good
Name and
evening.
address for the record, please.
Haley Jackson, 280 Main Street, Farmingdale, New York.
You affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay.
So today, for this job site, we are doing a full facelift, for lack of a better word. We're going to redo the full parking lot, new parking spaces, ADA-compliant parking stalls. We're also updating all of the drainage systems to be compliant with town code, and lighting specifications, all of that is getting upgraded to adhere to town code. There wasn't too much changes. We're basically getting it a new parking lot, new sidewalk, new handicap ramp, making it all compliant and good to go for the retail.
And freshening up the landscape.
That as well, yes. We are adding landscape to the front to make it beautiful to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Also with us this evening is Steve Fellman. And Steve, could you please come up briefly and address the architectural elements of the plan?
Name and address for the record.
Steve Fellman, 54 George Street, Babylon, New York.
You affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Go.
I swore I wasn't going to cry tonight, but I'm probably going to cry. This is very emotional. This is the end of my architectural firm. I'm closing it down as of January 1st. My father and I have had the pleasure of dealing with this town for 67 years. Absolute pleasure. But my wife had a stroke 5 months ago and died, and my heart just isn't in it anymore. So, I'm going to be like semi-retired, but I'm still here. You can all still find me. But I just can't tell you what a pleasure it's been dealing with this town for all that time. Back to this project. The site is 19,000 square feet. The existing building is 8,600 square feet. We're going to be demolishing 1,000 square feet. That makes everything work a whole lot better and makes the parking work and makes the site work correctly. We have proper amount of parking. Only 1,600 square feet is actually going to be retail. The rest of the building is storage. The exterior, we wanted to give it a, start making it look more retail. We're adding hardy plank siding and storefront and windows to give it a more retail look to it. This is the history of this. Anthony and I met together. He was the landscape contractor. I was the architect for the Home Depot in Bayshore. That's when we met. How long ago was that? Right? A long time ago. That's when we met. We've been dear friends ever since. I mean, literally dear friends. I'm pretty sure the landscaping is going to be pretty good when he gets done with it, because that's what he does. So this should be an amazing improvement at this site.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
Steve, it's been an honor to work with him over the years. We've been together many times on many applications, and I'm going to be glad to hear that you're still around, and sorry to see that you're not going to be as practicing as actively. So part of this application also includes security. It's a big issue with any one of these applications, and just by way of background, there will be included a New York State licensed security guard from an outside vendor on site in connection with this use. They will be on duty 1 hour before and 1 hour after closing. All employees are also corporate trained as to the security aspects of this operation. ID checks are mandatory. There will be full security throughout the entire site. Deliveries, as I said, are all inside. There's no on-site consumption, no loitering. The building's sprinkled, alarmed with central station. So the hours of operation are one of the issues that we'd like to talk to you about tonight. I know that you approved Strange Stores. Their hours are advertised at 9 to 9. State law allows between 8 and 2. When we describe this to the planning board, we are hoping for the broadest amount of hours, with the idea that the business that comes in is going to drive what hours we're actually open. I also will say this operation and this location is very much different than some of the other locations that you have, because it is truly in the heart of the industrial area. So there is no one that's going to be impacted to any degree, whether we're open till 9 or we're open till 11. But we have limited the hours to 9 to 11, 7 days a week, which after we're operational, I think will be reduced based upon traffic and need. That's one point where we disagree, and it's really the only point we really disagree with planning in terms of what their recommendations are. The site otherwise complies with signage. It will be to code. There'll be a pest control plan in place. There's an enormous investment that goes along with any one of these applications. There have been hundreds of thousands of dollars invested just to get to this point. Deliveries will include 1 to 2 vehicles. The planning restrictions on delivery vehicles, I believe, were related to the outside storage. They don't care if it's, I'm sure, if it's inside. And we're going to start with one. It's going to probably be a minivan. It's not going to be an Amazon-style van, a minivan, a Prius, something on the smaller nature. But it could at some point become 2. I think it's in, the interest of having a less intense site to make deliveries. So I think from a planning perspective, the board would be supportive of allowing, 2 delivery vehicles, let's say, as opposed to 1. They all do load on the side. And we have made arrangements so the overhead door will be open so they can come and go. Other than that issue with the vehicle and other than the issue as to the hours of operation, we have been in agreement with planning in connection with their comments. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we have an operations person here to answer any questions as well from the applicant. Thank you.
In a minute, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Shepherd, but as far as the hours go, we have gotten these hours for all of these places to the same exact hours, and that's what we're going to stick with for the time being at least anyway.
Understood. And, as time goes forward, perhaps if, as things go, we can come back and ask for relief from that if it's appropriate.
Everybody's got short leashes on all of these operations anyway, so you will be back here in any event, so maybe that'll change, but right now we want to keep the hours all the same.
Understood.
Okay? I'll turn the hearing over to Mr. Shepherd.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. No samples? Just kidding. Number of employees?
So typically 5 to 6,
Okay,
all of whom will park inside.
okay. And do you agree to the 4 conditions, including the hours of operation? No on-site consumption of product, there will be no outdoor events on premises, and no more than 1 delivery permitted as overnight.
Well, I think we
That
would
would-
change,
no-
recommend no outdoor storage of delivery vehicles if that's what you're changing your plan.
That's what we agree to, and that's
the
on the
fir-
plans that we submitted.
So it would be the first 3 on the planning.
That's correct.
memo.
With no outdoor storage of delivery vehicles will be the added 4 or amended 4.
Agreed.
Okay,
But the fire marshal does need access to the building.
yes, and you do need, yeah. The fire marshal been in there yet?
I don't know about that. We'll be
Yeah, well,
compliant. I'm
according
sure he will be. Because they have a major redevelopment. It's sprinkled.
We don't have a fire marshal. Wait. No, and yeah, he has no access to the building. when
Okay,
I come.
we'll contact him to allow him in.
Yeah, you're going to have to take care of that, all right?
Sure. We need to do that before you render your decision.
Yeah,
Sure.
yes.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. Okay, we're going to close the hearing. We're going to keep the record closed and reserved. Keep the record open for fire marshal's report.
Yes,
Okay,
we'll get on that tomorrow.
okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Who's here? Townstown? Okay, we're going to just go back to an application. They're now here. Application 24228 of All My Sons Realty Corporation, Family Paws LLC, property located in Deer Park.
How you doing?
Name and
My name
address
is
for the record.
Joe Massaro from, from All My Sons Realty.
I need an address.
1158 Suffolk Avenue, Brentwood, New York. That's where the office is.
And do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December the 5th, 2024. Environmental Control memo dated December the 10th, 2024. If approved, this application will not result in significant impact. Survey by Christopher Henn dated, January 26, 2020. Tax map acting as an area map. And,
Mr. Chairman, there's 2 photographs.
okay, what would you like to tell us about the application?
The Houndstowns has been there for, I guess, 2 or 3 years. You know, I purchased the building. They never followed up with the CO, so the CO ran out. And now we're here just redoing the CO to get everything correct.
Okay, I'll turn the hearing over to Mr. Correcchia.
Good evening, how you doing?
Good.
Did it change ownership, or is it the same owners, or?
Same owners, you know. I'm just a new landlord of the property.
Okay, so property changed ownership, but the same tenants?
Yeah.
Okay, because it hasn't been, we approved this in 2020.
Yeah.
So it's 4 years, and they just neglected to get it
Yeah,
reapproved.
when I bought it, naturally you buy it with whatever the previous owner didn't do, so I got held with that liability. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, and the application is a result of complaints about interior renovations? Have you been doing interior renovations without a permit, right, at this point?
No, we have the permits. All right, we're just, we got COs and everything. I mean, you know, plumbing, interior, basically, but it just, I guess everything, the CO ran out after a while, or the construction CO, or whatever it is, so
the
that's,
construction's complete, there's no ongoing construction at this time?
no.
For the record, a building permit was issued, but a CO was never issued for the original permit.
Okay, so it was never completed, and he never got a CO?
Yeah, that's
The
what we're
original
trying to do
building
now.
permits.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to do that first before we approve this?
No, they can't issue a CO without, not because it lapsed. But we do need Suffolk County.
We need Suffolk County planning on this.
We also need the affidavit of posting. Do you have the form to fill out that you posted the sign?
Posted the signs on the building?
Right.
Yeah,
You need the affidavit
There's-
of posting. You need to fill out that sheet and have it notarized.
But the sign was posted for the 10-day period? The sign was posted for 10 days? Yes. Okay, so you need to come up and fill out the affidavit. You don't have to do it right now, but before the end of the evening, before you leave. Okay, so. There's no construction going on right now?
no.
Okay. Chairman, I have no further questions at this point.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? For the record, there are none. Okay, we're going to close the hearing, reserve decision. We need Suffolk County planning on this, and you guys are going to fill out the affidavit of posting before you leave. Suffolk County planning will come to us. There's nothing you have to do for that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dunkin' Donuts? Anybody here on Dunkin' Donuts? No. Maybe at the end of the night. Next application is application 24235 of Tanger Outlets, property located in Deer Park. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Philip Butler with the law firm Forcelli, Deegan, Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Before I start, I just have some stuff to hand up to the board if I can.
I will start to read this into the record, you can hand that up, all right? For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024. Environmental Control Memo dated December 11th, 2024. If approved, this application will need a negative declaration. Survey, 4 pages of the survey, and it is American Engineering Surveying, and it's dated 8/17/13. I needed a magnifying glass to find that. Tax map acting as an area map, and
Chairman, there's 4 photographs on the site plan by Christopher Robinson dated October 22nd, 2024.
okay, would you like to tell us about the application?
Yes, sir. Okay, so again, Philip Butler for Chelly Deegan Toronto. I'm joined here tonight by a number of people. Brett Brophy with Tanger, Angel Robinson representing one of the co-applicants, Main Event, Michael Relier, who is legal counsel to Main Event, Gino Tedesco with R&M Engineering, Wayne Muller, also R&M Engineering, No DeLeo, the Tanger Outlets facility manager, and Dan Urell, who is with operations for Dave & Buster's, which acquired Main Event. I just handed up for the board a packet. It looks quite thick, but it's basically just 2 decks of photographs of the 2 uses I'm going to be discussing, and then a floor plan which was requested by the planning department. So we're here tonight requesting 2 special use permits. The first is to re-tenant roughly 46,000 square feet of retail space that was vacated by the Christmas Tree Shop and later by Wayfair. That'll be replaced by the Main Event Family Entertainment Center. The town classifies the use as an indoor game room and a 475-seat bar restaurant. So it's a place of amusement and a bar restaurant. Second special use permit is to legalize the Christmas Land Experience, which is an existing seasonal use of approximately 20,000 square feet on the 2nd floor of a separate building to the northeast of the existing movie theater. This is the space that was formerly occupied by the New York Sports Club that vacated in 2020 during the pandemic. On December 2nd of this year, the planning board granted Tanger a special exception permit for the bar restaurant component of Main Event and site plan approval. Notably, there was no public opposition to the application. The application has been classified as a type 2, exempt from environmental review, and the planning board's approval did include a set of CNRs and conditions of approval, all of which have been agreed to by Tanger and Main Event. They will be reduced to writing and recorded against the property. So in a moment, I'm going to call up some representatives for the Main Event and our traffic engineer, Wayne Muller, to provide some testimony. Before I do that, I just want to give a brief introduction to both of the uses to provide some context for the photographs that I provided. So the Main Event is a family-oriented entertainment experience originating in Texas, offers a variety of child and family-friendly games, including traditional arcade games, virtual reality, bowling, laser tag, billiards, and similar games and experiences. And you have a photo deck of what a typical layout in the interior will look like. We also provided a full floor plan to the planning department that's been under review. This is not the Main Event sports bar like the one that's on 110. I know there's a number of Main Event sports bars in Long Island. This is not that brand. But like that brand, there will be full bar and restaurant service. Alcohol is served on premises. The use is really not dissimilar from Dave & Buster's or Jillian's back in the day before Dave & Buster's existed. The Main Event will initially employ approximately 200 individuals, but likely that'll taper off to about 150 to 170 once it's fully operating. The general hours of operation are as follows: Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m., Monday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m., Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m., same on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday is 11 a.m. to 2 a.m., and Saturday is 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. These hours of operation were vetted with the planning board, and they consented to them. Again, that was part of their approval. We also did a little bit digging, and these hours are consistent with at least 3 other uses in the immediate area, including, of course, Miller's Ale House. On the subject of alcohol, no guest under 18 years old is permitted on the premises without a parent or guardian, and all managers, servers, and front-of-house staff are ServSafe certified or at least trained for proper alcohol service. Main Event also uses the BARS program, which uses secret shoppers to basically test staff on compliance with the Safe Serve standards and practices. So the use is very well suited for the center. As I mentioned before, like Dave & Buster's, you typically will find uses like this in a major retail center. It's kind of a compatible use in Tanger as one of the uses in the town. That's kind of like a one-stop shop for retail, dining, entertainment. The use makes sense. It's also a synergistic use with the existing theater that's there. So it's kind of creating a little bit more of a hub for, work and work play type of environment where you'll have an economic engine, lots of jobs. You'll also have people coming there for retail, dining, and now entertainment. With respect to Christmas Land Experience, this is a seasonal holiday-themed decoration display consisting of about a dozen staged scenes and areas that are intended for people to come and just look at the decorations and basically take photos. It also includes this year a synthetic ice skating rink. So it's basically what I was told, a polyplastic layer and then specialized ice skates where people will come and just kind of basically like skating, but it's not really ice. It also has a small snack shop that sells snacks and hot cocoa. So again, it's a seasonal use, so it operates each year. This is now the third year it's operating. It goes from Black Friday through New Year's each year. Hours of operation are Thursday through Sunday from noon to 8 p.m. It employs 15 full-time employees for the season with 5 to 10 people working per day. It currently has a public assembly license for up to 380 people. However, the facility never reaches this maximum because admission requires a ticket that's either pre-purchased online or at the door, and they do sell out. So at no point do they get above the 380 people permitted in the space. And at the planning board's request, as I mentioned, we provided a floor plan of the current layout of the space for this year. As you'll see from the floor plan, the use actually only occupies approximately 20,000 square feet of what was the 32,000 square foot New York Sports Club. So the balance of that space is actually either inactive or it's being used for dead storage. It's not open to the public. So again, the use doesn't occupy the full space in that building. So with that introduction, I would like to call up Angel Robinson with the main event to kind of give a little bit more flavor to the main event use so the board has a little more context. Then I'm going to call up Wayne Muller to discuss the traffic and parking since that was kind of a major sticking point for the review from the town. And I want to make sure that the board is aware of the findings from the report that was submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Angel Robinson, 1221 South Beltline Road, Capel, Texas, 75019.
Okay. And do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes,
What would you like to tell
absolutely.
us?
Good evening. Thank you for having us this evening. Just to add a little bit of color to what Philip Butler was saying on Main Event. So this is commercial indoor entertainment. Main Event started operating in 1998 with their first location in Louisville, Texas. Everything goes on under roof, and it's basically a celebration. It's a place to come celebrate with your families, small children. There is bowling inside, laser tag, arcade, plus we have the full restaurant with a bar. So it just provides that space that you can come and celebrate with families or friends. We take pride in our operations and providing a safe environment. So I'm here to answer any questions. We also have our licensing counsel with us, as well as our operations director.
Okay. Mr. Correcchia has questions. Hang on.
Yes, sir?
No? Okay.
Does he have a question?
Thank you.
Do you have a question for me, or can I call Mr. Muller? Okay.
The hours of operation, the days of operation, the time period for the Christmas experience?
It's Thursday through Sunday from noon to 8 p.m.
And which building is it in? You said it was in a sports club?
It's in the building that was, it's on the second floor. It used to be the sports club. It's the building to the northeast of the movie theater, so. Yeah. It's a separate building from what we're talking about for the space for the main event.
Okay.
Right.
We'll need a plot plan for where that is too, for the Christmas experience. Just highlighting which tenant space is in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. For the record, Wayne Muller with R&M Engineering, offices at 50 Elm Street, Huntington, New York. For the record, I'd just like to submit one copy of the very detailed traffic and parking analysis that we prepared.
Thank you. And do you affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay.
So as previously stated by Mr. Butler, it is proposed to occupy the tenant space that was previously known as the Christmas Tree Shops and more currently contained a Wayfair outlet with the proposed main event. The proposed Christmas Land Experience is located in the bulk of the space, which was formerly New York Sports Clubs, which is located on the second floor in the middle of the center, I guess east of the theater, within the second floor. In accordance with the Town of Babylon requirements, we prepared a detailed parking and traffic study. That study was submitted to the Planning Department somewhere in July of 2024. It was reviewed by the town's consultant. The results of that review indicated that the results of our analysis were confirmed in so much as that the reoccupation of the Wayfair space with the main event, and then that the parking and traffic generated by the Christmas Land Experience will not create any significant traffic issues in and around the site, and that there would be more than ample parking provided on the property to accommodate those uses. As indicated on the plans prepared by my firm, we are not seeking a parking variance. 4,000, let me just grab the numbers real quick. As indicated on the plans, 4,131 parking spaces are required by code, and 4,828 parking spaces are provided on the property. There'll be 4,705 paved spaces and 132 land bank spaces. So we are not seeking relief from the ordinance. However, we did perform a parking analysis due to the fact that the main event is a little bit of a different tenant for this area. And as indicated in our study, we found that there would be more than ample parking to accommodate both uses. Be happy to answer any questions. Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you.
So before I conclude, I just want to make some additional comments, and then I have a request for the board. So with respect to the criteria the board is required to consider under Town Code Section 213-13, we respectfully submit that the application meets the standards for the following reasons. First, the Christmas Land has operated at the center for now its third year without issue, and it hasn't disrupted any operations of adjacent uses or properties. And also, as reflected in the Planning Department's memo, there are no open complaints against the center. The main event is also a consistent use for the reasons that we've already discussed, and as you just heard from Mr. Muller, there are no impacts associated with parking or traffic. We're not losing any parking as a result of the application. We're also not adding any additional impervious. We're not doing building expansions. We're not doing new buildings. So this is all re-tenanting of existing tenant space within the center. So we're not really talking about any kind of use that's going to generate outdoor noise, dust, vibrations, any of those things that might be of concerns to neighbors. And of course, even if those things were present, this is an industrial and commercial area. You don't have any residences in the immediate vicinity of the center. You also don't have any of other sensitive uses like schools, churches, community resources, parks within the immediate area. You also have the Long Island Railroad to the north, which blocks it from the preserve that's on the other side. So I think in terms of impacts from these uses, the only thing we'd really be concerned about would be the traffic and parking, since this is all occurring indoors. So again, I think we meet the standards under the code for compliance. Finally, I know there was just a request for a plot plan with respect to the Christmas Land Experience. If that's something we're going to provide after tonight and the board decides to reserve decision, I would ask that if the board is prepared to approve main event separate from Christmas Land Experience, that it do so and not hold up main event. Main event is kind of eager to start applying for permits. I know this is one application, but two separate special use permits. So if we do need to provide additional information with respect to Christmas Land, if we could get a decision on main event sooner than later, that would be appreciated.
The board is still waiting for Suffolk County Planning's memo.
Oh, it is.
To make the decision. They have a meeting next Thursday, so if you can provide a plot plan before then,
Get both done.
it wouldn't hold it up, but
Do you think? Yeah.
I'm sure they can consider it if they get Suffolk County Planning by next week.
Okay, great.
We should get it by next week, that's normal, we're just,
Okay.
sometimes it's behind.
And you would agree to the conditions that we set forth on the planning memo?
Yes.
No
there-
live music, no live entertainment, no cabaret, discotheque, or any other activities similar in nature?
With
Main
respect,
event?
with respect to the main event space, yes, and that was something we agreed to with the planning board as well.
Okay, and we do reserve the right to impose different hours of operations in the future.
Okay, and I would just request that if that happens, that of course we be notified and then.
Of course.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
We're going to close the hearing, we're going to reserve decision, keep the record open for Suffolk County Planning memo.
And the plot plan. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, thanks. Next applications are application 24-229 and application 24-230 of Taco Bell of America LLC.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Greg Alvarez from Amato Law Group, 666 Old Country Road, Garden City, New York, here on behalf of the applicant Taco Bell of America, LLC. Before we start, I do have copies of the 3D renderings that we previously submitted to the Planning Division, so I'd just like to submit these hard copies in the record.
Okay. Meantime, I'll read this into the record. On application 24-229, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024. We have environmental control memo dated December 10th, 2024. There's some items on here that should have been part of the planning memo. Suffolk Fire Marshal's report dated December 12th, 2024. This office has no objections. On application 24-230, dated December 5th, 2024. For the signs, then we have environmental control memo on that same application, December 9th, 2024. Approve this application will not result in significant impact. We have a survey by William Whipple, dated September 21st, 2023. On the first application, on the second application, we also have a survey by William Whipple, dated
Should be the same one.
21st, 2023. It's either 6 or 9. Let's go with 9. I see that's down that one in a bigger font. And
Chairman, there's 10 photographs of both applications. We have a site plan by Dale E. Koch dated August 29, 2024, and a sign plan by Dale E. Koch dated September 12, 2024.
we also do not have Suffolk County Planning on application 24-229. Okay, would you like to tell us about the application?
All right, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for letting me present both applications at the same time, so we do appreciate that.
So do we.
All right, before we jump into the variances, I just want to give you a brief overview of what's being proposed here. The location of the property, 85 East Sunrise Highway in Lindenhurst, Suffolk County Tax Map, District 100-208, Block 4, Lot 1. So there is an existing Taco Bell restaurant, as you can see in the Google photograph up in front of us. The plan would be actually to demolish that building and replace it with a brand-new building and a brand-new site configuration. So just to give you a little orientation of where the property is, I'm sure we're all aware, it's just down the street, south side of Sunrise Highway between North Delaware Avenue and North Erie Avenue. It is Zone E Business District EB, and the Taco Bell has actually been at this location since for approximately 25 years. So Taco Bell has determined, I think rightly, that it's a right time to modernize the building and also modernize the site orientation. So the primary benefits of this proposal are to replace the building. It will be modernized both indoors and outdoors to provide a more efficient operation for Taco Bell. The building itself will be pushed up towards Sunrise Highway, and that will allow a new drive-through configuration. Right now, the drive-through configuration actually runs towards the back of the property. Now it will run towards the front, and as you can see, there will actually be dual order locations for this drive-through, and that's important as part of our variances. In addition, another component that will be added that will be new for this location will be an outdoor seating area that's located on the western portion of the new building. It could accommodate up to 12 people. And another component of our variances, we're proposing a canopy that will actually cover that location to allow for greater use of it during certain inclement weather events. Other improvements to the site include landscaping, although we are preserving the existing tree stand that's on the southerly portion of the property. That was specifically requested by the planning board. And we're going to be changing the site access. So the site access will come off of Sunrise Highway to improve the ins and outs, so it doesn't have to occur on Sunrise. It will now occur on both North Delaware and North Erie. We're also proposing new signage, which we'll just get into in just a moment. But all of the typical upgrades that you would expect when the entire site is repurposed, and basically we're starting from scratch. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about the variances, and we are in receipt of the planning memos to discuss these. So because we had two applications tonight, because the first application, number 10 on the calendar, and it's case number 24229, relates to one area variance that addresses the outdoor seating area. I mentioned that a canopy is going to be proposed over that existing, or that proposed area. And we're seeking a variance here because it's being deemed an accessory building. It's not fully attached to the building itself, so it is considered, even though it's not fully enclosed, it's just a cover for the outdoor area, it's considered an accessory building. And accessory buildings under your code are not permitted anywhere except in rear yards. So technically here, because we're facing North Delaware, we are in a front yard, but we meet all the setbacks by a wide margin, in fact. It's just by virtue of not being in the rear yard, that is why we're seeking the variance here. We're in entire agreement with Planning Division's assessment as to this variance. We agree that, and that was our intent, to provide this as an amenity to the site, to the patrons that will be using the restaurant. And it's been carefully designed to ensure that it's safely managed. There are bollards that are going to be installed to provide protection from the drive-through that's going to be passing to its west, and pedestrian access that will allow not only access to the outdoor area, but also to the proposed order window that's located just across on the, I guess it's the northwestern side that's right next to the outdoor area. So with that, we're in full agreement that this particular variance can be granted because of the benefit that it's going to be providing as part of this new design. So now I'd like to move on to the second item that we're considering tonight, and that is case number 24-230, and that involves the signage that's being proposed as part of this application. And as you can see there are 8 listed there, so I'll try to move through them as quickly as I can, but just in short, we are generally in agreement with the assessments that Planning Division has set forth. We believe there is ample justification for all the variances that we're seeking, so I'll just sort of try to hit each one and discuss them briefly. So the first one has to do with the number of ground signs. Typically, 1 ground sign is permitted. We're proposing 8 here, and I'm going to have to talk a little bit about these because when it sounds like perhaps a lot, but in reality, most, if not all, of the signage is very customary to these sorts of uses. So first off, as I noted at the top, there is a proposed two-lane order area for the drive-through, and that's actually where 4 of the 8 signs, ground signs that we're talking about as part of this variance. 2 of them have to do with the order boards, which are very typical and in place in those 2 locations on the eastern side of the proposed building, and those will serve the purpose of, again, the efficiency that's being attempted to achieve here for better operation of the site. In conjunction with that, two more of the signs involve the actual canopies that will be over those areas that will serve the order areas, and those are intended for the benefit of the customers, again, in situations of inclement weather, to make sure that there is overhead coverage for those when those orders are taking place. There are 2 additional signs that are proposed, and it's also as a function of trying to make the site more efficient. So we're going to be proposing 2 more signs in 2 spots closest to the entrance of the building on the south side, and pretty close to the order pickup window that I mentioned earlier. And they're designed there to note that those are specifically designated for mobile order pickups. As we know, the evolution of technology has allowed for these types of order transactions, and this allows for, again, more efficient site to designate a specific area for those customers can go to pick up their orders and then proceed off the site. So that's 6 of the 8 right there. And then number 7 has to do with the clearance bar, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. That's at the entrance of the drive-through itself. That's to indicate for vehicles to make sure that they will be below the required height, so when they travel around the drive-through to the order window, they'll actually be able to fit under that canopy over there. So that's just very typical, and again, in the interest of efficiency, and very typical for these types of uses. And then finally is the more conventional sign you would expect for a ground sign. That's in the northwest corner of the property, and that would be a ground sign that is otherwise compliant, except for one other item that we'll talk about in just a minute, and that will be the 8th sign. So taken together and sort of breaking them out, you could see that they're very conventional in nature and indeed very important to the operation of the site. So we'd be seeking that variance there. So the next variance does have to do with that ID monument sign. Typically, you need a 10-foot variance from any front yard. Here, because of the nature of trying to get that building closer to Sunrise Highway, that has limited the ability to locate the sign further back. But as you can see, the sign as proposed on this particular site plan will be outside the hatched area, which is the site triangle area, and therefore believe it will not cause any sort of site visibility issues at that corner. So, and that was specifically designed to do that. So there we'd be seeking the variance because of the limitations that we have here and the goals to achieve the other efficiency measures that are all part of this overall design. Okay, the next 2 variances, and I don't know if the planning division fully explored these, but they relate to the area of some of the ground signs. So the ground signs that we're talking about here relate to the order canopy and the clearance bar. So in both instances, again, these are signs that are going to be very integral to the operation of this new drive-through. And so in terms of the area as measured, and we want it to be very conservative. I know the town's measurement criteria are pretty conservative, but we are not able to achieve the square footage that's required there. But again, they're going to be very typical and very integral to the drive-through. So in those instances, we believe that the square footage that's being requested is certainly within range. The next variance that we're going to be talking about has to do with the Taco Bell sign. This is going to be the wall sign on the facade that faces Sunrise Highway. So in this instance, we're actually pretty close to the actual number in terms of what is permitted versus what we're proposing. I think we're proposing a 86 square foot wall sign where 75.1 square feet would be permitted. There it is on the screen right there. And we are in agreement with the planning division in this respect. This is the most prominent frontage for the new building. And so we believe it does seem reasonable to make sure that it is a prominent fixture upon the building. And again, it's very close to the permitted requirements. So we believe that the de minimis request here, it should be permitted to allow for this sign to make sure that it has enough visibility facing Sunrise Highway. Okay, we're almost there. So the next, let's see, I want to make sure I got all of them here. I think the next three, I'm going to ask David Bittner from Bowler Engineering to step forward. For the planning division, they did ask for a little bit more detail on this, so I've asked him to address these three variances. It involves two specific signs. So I'm going to cede the floor and have him come up to describe why we believe these variances are justified as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
David Bittner with Bowler Engineering, 275 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 100, Melville, New York, 11747.
Okay. You affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
What would you like to tell us?
All right, so planning commented on two additional signs that required three variances. I think it would be best if we pull up the 3D rendering that was submitted. So this plan is perfect. The first sign is that one that's prominent in the front. That is kind of giving indication of to where the pedestrian pickup window is. So that's going to be used for mobile orders as well as other orders for people to come, get their items, leave without actually having to enter the store. We feel like the sign is giving a great indication of where this is located, and that's why we're seeking relief for this sign. The other sign that's in question is on the back of the building, which faces Erie. It is that sign with the Bell logo. We were being conservative with our areas. We did the whole rectangular shape around that perimeter. That's what's coming up with a large area. It's also 8 feet in height. Planning said if it does not distract from the building, they would be favorable of it. We feel that that is the case. Additionally, the Bell logo itself is only 5 feet wide by 5 feet 9 inches tall, and to 27.5 square feet, which would be a compliant sign. Again, we went a conservative route and did the whole perimeter of the rectangular shape. So that concludes my general, sorry.
Question from the board.
I got it.
I have a question. Pertaining to the sign, the coloring and the material of the panel sign, is it going to be aesthetically pleasing and attractive? I mean, is it exactly what we see? Is this
Yes.
what it is? Okay. All right. I'm good.
Yeah, I do, but this gentleman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have one?
Oh, you got one?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Building.
Not about the sign, okay.
Okay, so we're going in on Erie and out on Delaware?
You want to talk? Go ahead. Both driveways are full access.
Both driveways are what?
Full access. You can come in.
No,
and
when
move.
you're ordering and picking up on the,
Again, it's designed that patrons can come in from either entrance and get in, and then leave. It's up to them to determine which exit
you
they
got
want
a
to go.
traffic light there that's always backed up. And you're gonna be exiting out into that traffic light.
They don't have to, they can go the other way.
Right, but, well, if they're gonna go left onto the Delaware, you got somebody in front of you that wants to make a left. It's gonna get jammed up there, that's all. Right, but one other question, the hours of operation. There's a sign on that place right now that says it's open 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah, so generally the way Taco Bell operates is it can be variable in terms of when they operate at their locations. That that certainly may be the case at this point. It's usually adjusted based on demand. So right now, I think they're operating 24 hours to meet that demand, so to speak.
Well, I only bring it up because we've had other issues at other Taco Bells, and I don't believe that anybody ever addressed it or took care of the matter. So,
Yeah, we're not aware of any issues at this particular store, but
Do you agree to the recommended condition that the board would have the right to impose conditions on hours of operation?
of course, and subject to public hearing, of course, we would just ask for that.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Do you have any more on the presentation, or?
That's essentially our conclusion. Again, we're just sort of asking for these very specific variances. There were a few, but they required explanation because they all go hand in hand with the application. So that'll conclude it right now. Thank you.
I'm going to turn the hearing over to Mr. Rigner. He has a couple of questions.
Sure.
I mean, I asked about the coloring and the materials of the sign, which the gentleman answered. John, you answered the hours. As far as the lighting, everything is going to be contained on the property, right? It's not going to, I know to the south, we have residents behind us,
Correct, everything is downlit, dark sky compliant.
and it's going to remain a landscape buffer along there?
The existing landscape buffer is remaining as for the request by planning.
Now, the sign menu boards, are they animated, is there a robot behind that thing? Is there somebody talking to you? It's-
AI or
It
whatever.
is more of a TV screen now. It will change when the order is placed to actually be able to confirm your order. That is the only change that happens. It still is done by humans.
Okay, no, because I know the one in West Babylon, you're talking to a robot. It's not, a person behind there unless it's an issue. Volume on these things, are they going to be dialed down? Because I know, again, Deer Park Taco Bell, we did have an issue with residents.
They are ambient controlled, so if it's quiet, they will be quiet.
All right. Bottom line, we just want to be good neighbors. I welcome the change. I think it's very nice. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, that's sort of the intention here too, as well, to orient most of the drive-through activity towards the northerly end, because right now it is on that southerly end of the property.
Any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? The record, there are none. We can't move on the,
Understood.
24-229. Want to move the signs?
Okay, so that'll be also at the upcoming meeting, I assume?
We hope we should get it within the next week.
Okay, thank you.
One more meeting at the year.
Thank you.
We could do. Katie?
You can move the sign.
Yeah, we can move the signs. Yeah, all right, let's move the signs. We'll go with the signs?
You just need a term limit.
Yeah, do a turn on them,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve application 24-230 for a period of 5 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's the signs, obviously. and
Understood.
then we're waiting on Suffolk County planning for the other one, right?
Very good. We appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Hey, John?
No Dunkin' Donuts? Still no Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, last application is application 24-233 of Arcadia Republic Farmingdale LLC, property located in Farmingdale. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, William Bonesso for Celli Deegan Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. On behalf of Acadia Republic Farmingdale LLC, the LLC is the owner of the property and the applicant in tonight's hearing. With me this evening to be providing direct testimony is a representative from Acadia Realty Trust, the, if you will, parent company of the LLC, Mr. Josh Bishenzer. Josh has been on this project since well before it was filed almost 2 years ago. Additionally, we have our site engineering and traffic consulting firm, representatives Courtney Riley, who will be speaking to the site plan, design and development, and Aaron McTay, who is our traffic expert.
Okay, let me
Before-
just read this stuff into the record.
Surely,
Let me begin,
sorry.
okay? For the record, we have a Planning Division memo dated December 5th, 2024. A Department of Environmental Control memo dated December 10th, 2024. SEQA is pending on this. Fire Marshal's report dated December 12th, 2024. No violations. Survey by Control Point Associates dated October 17th, 2012. Tax map acting as an area map, and?
Chairman, there's 4 photographs.
Okay.
Thank you. Before I call up Mr. Bissinger, just to give you a brief overview of what we're looking at this evening, this parcel of property, otherwise known as 1300 Broad Hollow Road, is situated on the southwest corner of Broad Hollow Road, Route 110, and Conklin Street. It's not actually directly on the corner because there's a gas station there, but our property surrounds that and maintains frontage on Broad Hollow Road, frontage on Conklin Street between the gas station down to East Carmen's Road, and then along a portion of East Carmen's Road. The site is a large site. It's nearly 20 acres, 19.26 acres in size. It is presently undeveloped and situated in the G Industrial District. The site, as you'll hear from Mr. Bissinger, is one with a history, and that's mainly because of its proximity to the Republic Airport, diagonally across Route 110 from the site, where there's a runway that lines up with a portion of our property, or a large portion of our property. And because of that, it is a challenged site from a development standpoint. The site plan, or the site development plan that is before this board tonight, that has been reviewed by planning and is presently pending for site plan review before the planning board, is one that really is the culmination of a great deal of communication and cooperation with a number of different jurisdictional authorities as well as local stakeholders. In developing this plan, there's been a great deal of interaction with not only the planning department for the town of Babylon, but also the airport, the New York State Department of Transportation, and the Federal Aviation Administration. In addition to that, from early on in the process, our client and the team reached out to the local stakeholders, meeting with several boards of local civic associations, meeting with 2 chambers of commerce, and also having detailed communications with the East Farmingdale Fire Department. And based upon those communications, modifications have also been made to the site plan. So what we feel that we have here is a plan that meets all of the challenges that each of those jurisdictional authorities have imposed on this property, while still providing Acadia with the ability to provide a viable and marketable site development, and to secure and attract tenants who need the services that this can provide. So what is this site plan? It is a proposal to develop it in the G Industrial District. Warehousing and storage is permitted, and that is basically what we're proposing. We're proposing 3 warehouse-type buildings, each with small office areas that total 65,000 square feet. In addition to that, the remainder of the majority of the site will be used for storage, either in the form of storing trucks or storing equipment, mostly in terms of vehicles. If there's a fleet service, and you'll hear from Mr. Bissinger as to the type of tenants they are talking with, fleet services, truck storage, construction vehicle storage, physical storage of materials, but that's more limited. We've designated areas for that. But these types of uses generate the lowest intensity in terms of occupancy and structural development on the property, which, as you'll hear, is vitally important to getting the authority from the other jurisdictions to perform this, this site redevelopment. So this development plan does, however, require variances, two of which are directly related to the lot configuration. There is a variance requesting that the board allow outdoor storage in the front and side yards as per the site plan. That is basically because we have 3 front yards. We have frontages along East Commons Road, along Conklin Street, and along Broad Hollow Road, and those frontages create 3 front yards and then basically a side yard. So we really literally do not have a rear yard to store materials in. So consequently, we're asking for that variance. Similarly, we have a variance to permit parking in the front yard on the Broad Hollow Road side. The site plan depicts the parking that would be existing in front of the buildings on that side of the property. That said, if you travel up and down Broad Hollow Road, particularly the businesses just to our south that are actually in front of our property, or to the west of our, east of our property, if you will, all of those storefronts have parking in the front yard setback. It is not uncommon. In the front yard, I should say, it is not uncommon. It is a standard item that runs along Route 110. The other of the 4 other variances, 3 are directly related to the operational and development limitations that are imposed on this property. And they pertain to the number of buildings we're proposing, 3 as opposed to 1, the number of loading berths for one of the buildings, 13 instead of 6, and what is perhaps from a numbers perspective the most substantial variance, it's the parking variance. We are asking to provide 97 parking spaces where the code, based upon the building square footage and the storage square footage, would require 262 parking spaces. You'll hear from both Ms. Riley and Mr. McTay justifications for those variances based again upon the site operational and development limitations that we're subject to. Lastly, there's a variance that is directly associated with mitigation of any impacts to neighboring properties, and that is a 6-foot-high fence on top of a 6-foot berm that we're proposing that is situated on the west side of the property adjacent to East Commons Road. That is there, as you'll hear in greater detail, to prevent noise levels exceeding the decibel limitations that the town imposes. So with that being said, I'd like to call upon Mr. Bissinger, and we did provide a slide presentation, that if I can ask Ms. Riley to pull that up, we'll start referencing that directly. Mr. Bissinger?
Hey, good evening. Thanks so much for taking the time tonight. My name is Joshua Bissinger. I'm with Acadia Realty Trust, owner of the property. The address is 411 Theodore Fremd. We're based in Rye, New York.
Do you affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do. So if you go to the next slide, just a little bit about us. We are based in Rye, just across the Sound. We're a shopping center owner, and we came to own the property years ago because this was intended to be developed as a shopping center. We have a number of other properties on Long Island, a couple in Smithtown and in Jericho, and we have a number of properties in the region and own shopping centers nationally. And being in the shopping center industry, we really know the communities that we operate in and try to take a community-centric approach because these are places that we all shop at and you know, they're part of the communities that we're in. So we've really taken the time to meet with the stakeholders and understand the environment that we're in before proposing a development plan. On the next slide, this really shows, you know, the proximity to the airport. And the biggest thing here, the history, everything that I'm going to talk about, is all driven by the airport. So the airport is owned by the Department of Transportation, who also has the power for curb cuts. And all prior projects here have been denied by the DOT because of aviation safety issues, ranging because of the runway protection zone, which covers the site. So we took a different approach from all of the previous applications. Rather than trying to build a shopping center here, we said, what will work from the airport's point of view? And this is really difficult, namely because they don't want anything on the site. And as a developer, for something to be economically feasible, you need density. And so the challenge has been, how do you come up with a project that makes sense financially, but also is compatible with airport operations? And that's been the guiding principle here. So just keep that in mind. But the biggest thing is that we've been working with the airport and the FAA for the past 2 years. And at the end of November, we got the FAA to approve our project and give the airport the green light to allow it to move ahead. So that was a huge milestone. We worked closely with many agencies and took many years. So this is the first project that's been presented that has the sign-off of the FAA and the airport. So just a brief history. Here are the two projects that were proposed previously. The first was a 232,000 square foot Stu Leonard's anchored project that was approved by the town. Construction actually started in 2003. That's how long of history we're talking here. And then the DOT denied their permits because they did not want a shopping center in the landing zone of the runway, just citing aviation safety. So that project was halted. Acadia was actually the lender on that project, and it went to court. Stu Leonard's moved across the street to Airport Plaza, and then eventually, us as the lender, we took back the property. The predecessors to me at my firm tried to build a smaller shopping center, oriented differently. You'll see there's not many buildings in that runway area, but still, this was not deemed to be compatible with the airport. So long story short, there's been many things proposed here. There was a warehouse that was discussed at one point for a large logistics firm. Again, the airport had come to us and said just too many people. So with that in mind, we decided to, I don't know why it's not showing up, but this is a rendering that was provided. It's 3 buildings, 65,000 square feet, which is a huge departure from the 200 and 100,000 square foot shopping centers that were proposed. Our entire objective is to create a use where there are no people. And so that's why the bulk of the site is used to house equipment and materials and just simply storage, no people. That's really been the guiding principle. So if you go to the next slide, everyone has asked us, like, what is outdoor storage? What are you going to do here? Who are the types of tenants? And as Bill said, we've really learned the FAA and the airport regulations. The guiding principle for everything is an FAA published rule, 5 people per acre. That is a light industrial standard that the FAA has set for properties in runway protection zones. So we designed everything around that. And those uses on a 19-acre site would mean that no more than 95 people are ever there at a given time. So that really limits what we can do. I have a list of potential tenants. This site has not been developed for years, and so people have come to us and said, I have this requirement, I'll believe it when I see it. And so hopefully, if this project moves ahead, we'll start signing leases. But to give you an idea of what we're thinking and who is going to use the site, a few different examples. One would be trucking and logistics. People parking their trucks, storing their fleets. A hypothetical firm could be like a XPO Logistics, where the fleet would live. Another potential use could be vehicle rentals and fleet parking, maybe someone like Ryder Trucks. Another type of group that we've talked about have been equipment rentals, like a Sunbelt rental or a United rental equipment. We've had discussions with regional car facility uses where the cars would be delivered, inspected, and then sent out to airports. Groups like Budget or Enterprise, it could be a backlot for them. We've spoken with building supply companies that have a need for a warehouse space and then a place to store things outside, like an ABC supply company. We've also talked to some of the utility companies, like a National Grid would be an example, who have vehicles, equipment, and materials that get stored outside. And then even local businesses like mill workers or steel workers who have a shop and might need to store things outside. As retail people, like this is a totally new world for us, and we've had to think outside the box to make something work here. But what's really interesting is when you think about the supply and demand dynamics here, there's been so much industrial development in our region that there's almost very few land sites left. People have been building warehouses on all of the industrial zone property. And so you think about where do you park the school buses, where do you park the fleets, there are fewer and fewer sites. And so as supply has dwindled, demand for properties like this has really increased. The last slide here is just a diagram of the runway protection zone, just to explain what we're up against. And the smaller trapezoid that's closer to the runway, that's the approach runway protection zone, the RPZ. And so that's where planes are landing, and that's the highest risk area. And so we've designed the entire site to avoid that area, and that's almost the whole property. So that's why we have 3 buildings, that's why they're scattered about, that's why they're on the edges of the site, is to avoid that landing area. The second trapezoid is the departure RPZ, and that's where planes take off. And there's a number of buildings there already. And so we've tried to just mimic the existing condition, and that we are basically conforming with what exists. We spent a lot of time with the airport on this, and this is where we landed. The reason that we were able to get the airport and FAA to yes is that we've agreed to a deed restriction, and that deed restriction is really to memorialize the site plan in perpetuity. There's 2 key aspects of that deed restriction. The first is that the landing zone remains a no-build area in perpetuity. So we've agreed we will never build anything there, and that's to protect aviation safety on the ground. The second is that we memorialize that 5 people per acre, and that we limit the site occupancy to no more than 95 persons. And so all of the uses that we're going to have, the parking spaces, everything kind of follows that story. So we really took a deliberate approach. It's a strange project, I know, but hopefully that explains kind of the guiding principles about why we landed on this use and why it's laid out like this. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or after Courtney works through it, that may also answer.
So I guess, what are the buildings themselves going to be used for? So you're going to have outside storage of things that you mentioned that are possible tenants and so on and so forth, but the buildings themselves, are they part of that outside storage? How's that going to work?
Yeah, the way to think about it is we have 3 potential tenants, and the uses generally have an indoor component with maybe an office, maybe a showroom, maybe a small warehouse, and then an outdoor component. So the building on building A, that's maybe a building supply company or somewhere where there would be a logistics use
They'd have
and then a
warehouse,
storage.
but they'd have the other stuff.
The building in the middle, that's maybe like a large fleet where you have a smaller office or dispatch or maybe a maintenance facility, and then that's where we talk to the rental car company about having a back lot. They would be bringing in car carriers of vehicles. They would be staged and kind of going to the regional airports. Potential use for that, or maybe a fleet. Building C, we've talked with a few of the equipment rental companies about that, where they have an indoor component and an outdoor component with various, like a United Rentals where they have those lifts, and you have vans, and inside you have generators and other things in an office. So it's a hybrid of the 2. We tried to design it to be as flexible as possible because we don't yet have tenants.
So I have another question here. So we know about the Stu Leonards, that came here and so on and so forth, and it got shot down. But wasn't this site a contaminated site at one point too? And
Yeah.
is that fixed now, taken care of?
It still is, and we actually have our environmental engineer here if there's any detailed questions. But the big picture is that the New York State DEC did an investigation and has a remedial action plan that we will be following. That means that we will be capping the site and monitoring it. So any soils that are disturbed with construction will be disposed of properly under DEC protocol. But the majority of the site is stable. There's no migrating contamination, so it'll be capped.
Okay.
So we're just
remember
following
there
their.
used to be like green water and stuff in there. And
It
like,
has some great, we've heard all, but at this point, it's stable.
Josh, before we turn it over to Courtney, you talked about what could be there. Could you also talk a little bit about what can't be there?
Yeah, so with planning, we've had extensive discussions about what we cannot do, and FAA as well. We cannot have any organic materials. There's a concern with migratory birds getting in aircraft engines. So that's one of the things we've learned. There will be none of that. We also will have no servicing or repair of any vehicles outside. If that's going to be inside, I think it needs a special permit. Idling trucks are not permitted, outdoor speakers are not permitted. We know that we're right up against a residential area, and Courtney will talk about some of the mitigation measures that we've taken and just the layout of the site to keep everything away from those residences, including this extra large berm and fence that we're building. But the whole intent is to keep it away from the residences, keep it quiet, and make this thing disappear. That's been the design.
And what's the maximum height of the buildings?
Well, the height of the buildings, I think, is governed by the landing zone. I think it's no more than about 25 feet approximately. So they're short buildings. Again, the site also is depressed from the road. Courtney will go into some of that in her testimony.
I have one more question, too. So there won't be a curb cut on the common side, right? No curb
Correct.
cut?
Planning had said, please keep all of your commercial activity on commercial roads, and we've agreed to that. Additionally, with the fire department, we wanted to stay clear of them as well, because they're right up
Yeah,
behind
they're
us.
right there, yeah.
And as you'll hear from Ms. Riley, the site is really designed to funnel all traffic entering and exiting back to or coming from Route 110. Our curb cut on Conklin for exiting vehicles is a directed curb cut forcing all traffic towards 110 and not to the west, where they could possibly go down East Carmen's Road or add to further congestion on Conklin Street.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Just stay on this slide for a second, too. Courtney Riley, VHB Engineering, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York.
You affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So at the beginning, as Josh mentioned, a lot of the key components were some projects that were going on or feedback that we got, and we took that to heart in every design that we do. We also spent a lot of time with the New York State DOT and FAA and their planners and designers. As you could see on this, just to give some context, the RPZ is contours in the sky. So just like contours on a survey, this is contours in the sky. So when you have different critical areas for the takeoff and then the landing, the calculations, essentially, just as Josh says, correct, we cannot exceed about 25 feet. Now that varies on the site, but to keep everything consistent, the other thing we do is we also lowered the site a little bit. So actually, the existing contours, when you go into the site, it is a little bit depressed. And we kept that depression instead of raising it to not only work with on the north side, right? It's so far away, right? You can't even see it. But on the north side of the site where the residents are, it's actually lower by about 4 or 5 feet. So when we started, when you'll see on other plans that we added a berm and then a fence, it actually becomes now completely screened. And when we met with the planning department, that was one of the first things they said. We do not want to see this from any commercial roadway. And so while we have now contours in the sky, we have contours on land, and we can't see anything, and oh, by the way, you could only build so much. So, as Josh mentioned, that RPZ is about 12 acres of the 19 acres, and the departure zone is 11 acres. So it really it doesn't give us a lot of room to work with. And as you'll see on the screen, again, there's about 11 buildings already that are in that departure zone where we are putting those other 2 buildings. So moving on to the next slide. Again, there were several requests. So this is to further, you can see a little bit better here that there are no accesses onto East Carmen's Road. We also are giving an easement towards the fire department. So Josh and team met with the fire department and realized that when they come out of their fire department, they need a little bit more room. And there's going to be accessibility there, about 8 additional feet. We've coordinated with the town highway department as well as the fire department. We've also, the fire department was nice enough to give us their CAD drawings for their fire trucks. So not only were we able to run that through the property, but also along East Carmen's to ensure that they could get out adequately. That easement would be dedicated back to the town so that we could widen the road for them. The subject property, as mentioned, is zoned G industrial, and this allows a building coverage up to 40%. So if we had one big building, we could go to 40% of the entire site. Because of all of our limitations, the total building square footage only reaches about 18.7%. So we're not even coming up to half of what could actually be building coverage. The reason we need to have 3 buildings, and the reason we're asking for that variance, is that it needs to be within those specific zones. And so instead of 1 building that is allowed by code, we are requesting 3 buildings. As mentioned before, we did take out the curb cut that was previously on East Carmens. And we also have added a sidewalk along the length of the property that doesn't exist today. For Conklin, if you go to the next slide. So for Conklin, you'll see, just as Bill mentioned, this now becomes, you can see a right turn out and a turn in. So one of the things we kept hearing was that there was a lot of traffic, not only in East Carmens, but people were cutting through. This essentially takes away that ability. Any vehicle traffic is going to have to go right back to Conklin. The other thing that we did is we had to work with Suffolk County DPW. Suffolk County DPW owns Conklin Road, and we're actually widening Conklin. So there will be an extra lane now that allows a left turn into the site. There's another, that would be an additional dedication that Acadia would be giving to Suffolk County, and this would allow a left turn into the site, and now only strictly a right turn out. So no one would be able to go like towards the village area. This also eliminates any traffic. On Broad Hollow, you'll see that this access is right turn, right in, right out. This access was also specifically moved towards this location for 2 reasons. One, right at the edge of where that gas station is, there's a proposed bus stop. There's enough lane in that roadway that you could actually have a right turn lane in. So we're going to be restriping the roadway. That'll allow for the bus stop to be able to stop there. Not only for that, but then also have a right turn in, right turn out.
You want to go back to the prior slide? It shows it.
Sure.
If you can go back to the prior slide.
Yeah, right there.
There it is.
Gonna come in, you want to come in? I didn't think they were gonna let him. He'd come in. Okay.
Thank you.
One of the other features that we did on the site, as Josh mentioned, there would be 3 tenants. You'll see in that green line, there's an internal roadway. The last thing we want is any additional truck traffic that would be queuing on whether it be the DOT roadways or Suffolk County roadways. So what we did with this long internal roadway that allows that if there is any vehicles, trucks, whatever it may be, leaving or exiting the site, that the queue is staying on site and that the queue isn't exterior to the site and we don't have any run over there. As mentioned before, there will be no idling of any vehicles are permitted and no outdoor speakers. You'll also notice there are, by tenant A, another variance is that the max required of loading berths is 6 and we're requesting 13. These are strategically placed in the center of the site where we could use the buildings as a buffer as well as then the landscaping. And it should be noticed that as you look at this landscaping plan as well, so if you look up at East Carmens, you'll see that we wrap around, even though it's commercial to commercial, we wrap around the building. So as you drive along East Carmens, there's a 6-foot berm with a 6-foot fence. And as we get through the presentation, you're gonna see renderings that we've done that are 3D models of what the existing buildings look like, as well as all the vegetation at install. So we have a 6-foot berm with a 6-foot fence on top of it. The landscaping is going to be in front of that berm, in front of that fence. So the majority of what you're going to be seeing is landscaping. Then as you kind of wrap around and you go towards Conklin, additionally there, it'll be about another 4-foot berm. There's no fence on the side of Conklin. This is just a berm, and you would see the building that's approximately 20 feet high, again, because of the RPZ. As you wrap along Conklin, around the gas station, and now on Route 110, again, berm with landscaping on top. And one of the last things that we discussed with the planning department is you could see we have commercial properties that are adjacent to us on Broad Hollow Road. But as you can drive through, when you look at their driveway, there's additional landscape berm, just I'd say in front of Tenant A. So you see that kind of looks like a landscape area. That's all new landscaping. So that even though there's commercial properties that you would see obviously first that are existing, we put a little bit of landscaping in that area as well to block any of the building. If you could go to the next slide. So these are the outdoor storage areas. Again, each of these outdoor storage areas, Tenant A has 2, Tenant C has 1. Tenant C specifically, again, placed with the buildings on the outside, putting it as far inside as possible. For Tenant A, obviously right there you could see it covers the loading dock anyway, but outdoor storage would be for any of the vehicles parking there. And then a smaller one that's, again, commercial to commercial behind the existing commercial buildings. So moving on, if you go to the next slide, yeah. Thank you. So we did what's called line of sights. So we took the existing survey, we built 3D models of the buildings and their heights. We went and took photos from the existing roadways, and then we put in our proposed plan. And you'll see that berm section as if you're going along East Carmen's. You see as a berm that gradually goes up. You would then see in blue a 2-foot area where a 6-foot fence would be sitting on top of, which is why we have the variance there. And then you have a typical truck or box truck that's about 13 feet in height. And in working with your environmental staff, it was mentioned to make sure that we're looking at noise, and this not only helps mitigate noise, but also from a visual screening, specifically and most importantly on the residential side, where the other 2 sides are commercial roadways or commercial properties. Moving on to this would be a rendering. I swear there's a truck back there, you can't see it, we do it on purpose. And actually, if you don't mind, if you could just go one back up. One of the things to note is that at install, we are installing trees that are more mature than normal. So you can see at install, it'd be about 8 feet in height. A lot of times the town will require us to have something smaller or it's proposed smaller. Once again, because of the FAA, we could only go so high. So these specific trees that are selected by our landscape architects are installed at 8 feet, but also cannot grow to any more than 20 feet. So all the trees are specifically affected to that because we can't go, again, beyond that 20 feet for aviation reasons. So this is along East Carmen's. The fence does drop down, basically once you get to the fire department, so the fence is at that height of the berm, but all the way in the back side, and then would drop down, and then would have a regular kind of street tree look with the nice PVC white fence. If you keep going. Again, this is from Conklin. Conklin elevation a little bit higher, but we do have 2 buildings there. So as you scroll down, you will see this is from the corner. You can see the fire department's right on the corner. And we have the building as well as some landscape and screen planting. And then the last line of sight we have is from Broad Hollow. Again, you can say on Broad Hollow. Thank you so much. So on Broad Hollow, again, the elevation actually does dip down a little bit further from the Broad Hollow entrance. That's also, just as mentioned before, where that outdoor storage is. So again, we'd have a 4-foot high berm. That's 4 foot high on the Broad Hollow side. but a little bit steeper on the actual site side. And if you continue down, we have a rendering of what that would look like. So the last thing to note is, again, on our parking variance, we do have two. We have one where we are asking for less parking spaces, as mentioned previously, and then the other is parking in the front yard. So if you could just stay on this slide, we'll see that, again, the parking while in the front yard is set back about 100+ feet, whether it be from Conklin Street and or from Broad Hollow. It's about 100 feet setback for the parking. So now I'll bring up my counterpart from VHB, Aaron McIntyre.
Name and address for the record, please.
Aaron McTay with VHB, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York.
Do you affirm to tell the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, Chairman and members of the board, at the request of the applicant, VHB has prepared a traffic and parking study for the application before you tonight. Unless there are questions, I'm not going to get into the traffic analysis portion of that report, but I will just quickly say that it demonstrated that the project would not have any significant impact on area traffic conditions. Instead, I'm going to focus on the parking because that's the subject of the variance.
Did you submit a copy of the traffic study to us?
It's part of we submitted it to the planning board. We can get a copy.
Okay,
of the result.
just for our record, that's.
Surely.
Yeah.
Surely. We'll get a copy.
Absolutely. So then, regarding the parking, as outlined by the project team that presented before me, the project requires a parking variance. We're providing only 97 spaces, whereas 262 are required. That does seem like a rather large variance, but obviously we'll talk about why it's warranted. Before I talk about the practical demand for parking for this application, I quickly want to reiterate that the reason we're not providing more than 97 parking spaces is due to the requirements from the FAA. The 5 individuals per acre requirement specifically, if applied to the size of the site, happens to amount to 97 individuals. So in a very basic way, if we were providing more parking and it were all to be used simultaneously, we would immediately be running afoul with these strict requirements. And, you know, that's just based on its location relative to the airport. So that's the reason why the parking supply is what it is. As a practical matter, though, it's important to note that, you know, these are industrial buildings, and you know, the definition of an industrial building is very broad. It describes a number of different uses. Some of those uses, you know, such as like a distribution warehouse, have the potential to generate very significant traffic and parking activity. But as we've discussed ad nauseum, those uses would not be viable for the buildings that we're proposing due to the FAA requirements. Mr. Bissinger discussed it in greater detail, obviously, but suffice to say the types of land uses that could occupy the space, they're much lower generators of activity. And it's because of that that 97 spaces is actually very conservative with respect to the actual parking demand which will be generated. One of the things that VHB did that sort of demonstrated this is, at one point we were working with the FAA to demonstrate the compliance with the 5 individuals per acre maximum. This effort is actually summarized in the traffic impact study, which I apologize, I did not realize that you did not have, but regardless, it was used as also the basis for our trip generation calculations. And what it did was it involved looking at the parking demand rates for the individual industrial buildings and taking conservative assumptions for the rate that the truck storage, assuming that it's like sort of fleet-type vehicles, would be accessed during a particular time. And that effort concluded that no more than 46 individuals would be present at any one time. If we assume that each of those 46 individuals represented a separate parked vehicle, that could easily be accommodated by the 97 parking stalls that we're proposing. And just to reiterate, the assumptions that went into the effort that yielded that number 46 were conservative. It assumed more typical industrial land uses for buildings A and C, and it assumed a fairly high level of access during the peak times for the truck storage areas, specifically in Area B. The types of uses that are generally being described are much more passive, so the parking demand will probably be even less than the 46 vehicles that we projected. In any event, suffice to say that because of the restrictions that the use of the property will have due to its proximity of the airport, it's my opinion that the 97 parking spaces being provided will be more than adequate, and that the proposed variance should be granted. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
Just
We
one
only
more
get one
thing.
chance to talk. Go ahead.
Sorry, just one more thing to note. The reason the parking required is high is that outdoor storage requires its own parking count. So say you have an outdoor storage, that outdoor storage, 10,000 square feet or whatever it is, outdoor storage requires its own parking. So even if you're parking cars in an outdoor storage, it requires parking for that parking, if that makes sense. So it's 1 per 700 square feet of outdoor storage. So when you look at our actual parking count, there's only 130 required per the building square footage, and then there's 132 for outdoor storage. So when you take out that 132, you get a little bit closer. The other, if you see tenant B, because we have it as a sales office, not as an industrial use, that goes down to a 1 per 250 parking ratio. So that little tenant B actually, per the code, requires 47 parking spaces. So when you kind of take all those things into account when it comes to a parking variance, 132 right off the bat, you're parking for outdoor storage parking, and then for just tenant B requiring 47 spaces, when we feel if it's just a sales office, doesn't really require that much as well. Just wanted to make that note. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions of any of our consultants?
I just have a couple of things. So,
Sure.
Would you confirm that any changes made to the site plan will not affect the variance requests?
No, they will not.
They will not.
We have vetted that. We, in fact, have a resubmittal just about ready based upon the last round of comments, but we confirmed that they would not
They don't
impact
affect
the
any of these
variances being
variances.
sought. We made sure that the one thing that we did know, and the reason why we had to get a second denial notice, was once we got the noise report back, and the suggestion was that we raise the fence. There was going to be a fence, but it was going to be at grade level. Once it was suggested that we raise the fence to the top of the berm so that it would mitigate any noise leaving the property. We advised planning, and they issued a new denial. So with that one, we do not expect any other variances to be required.
Do you agree that the conditions, one, that these lots be merged?
Yes, no problem with
No
that.
problem with that.
No.
No, I think you already said this, no truck idling is permitted at any time, no
Correct.
outdoor speakers.
Correct.
Bishop, yes?
For number 4, we would refer to environmental language for that one. It's on their memo.
Yeah, when we saw the language contained in number 4, which said no truck repair operations on site, basically meaning you couldn't even do it inside, we contacted planning yesterday and had a discussion with Nunzio Russo and said we had always contemplated the ability to have vehicle servicing in a building, not outside. So the solution that they came up with is contained in the environmental memo dated December 10th, that last paragraph on page 2 saying there shall be no truck repair operations outside, including but not limited to the changing of fluids. Vehicle maintenance inside of a structure will require a public garage special exception use permit granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals, subject to conditions, restrictions, and safeguards, and we would accept that condition.
Okay, so if in fact that takes place, you need to come back and get.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and that was number 4. And number 5, outdoor storage is only noted in the approved site plan.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Would anyone like to be heard on this application? Name and address for the record.
Michael Sutherland, Board of Director, East Farmingdale Volunteer Fire Company.
Confirm to tell the truth.
I do. I'm here representing the fire company today as we were opposed to the Prologic site. We're here today to say we are not opposed to this site. Everything that Mr. Bessinger has said has been 100% honest. We have had multiple meetings with him. Some of our problems and concerns is such as hydrants on the location. We asked for some additional hydrants inside, especially got 3 buildings. We'd be pulling hydrants off of Route 110, maybe a little tough. They turned around and put 3 hydrants in the facility for us to be able to maintain and protect that property a lot better. In front of our firehouse, giving us another, originally we had said 6, he came back and gave us 8 feet in front of our firehouse, and a removal of a telephone pole that is almost dead cent right where our aerial ladder comes in and out. They're going to remove that pole first. So they have been nothing but upfront and honest with us throughout this whole project, and we think this will benefit the community, us, and Route 110, and we are not opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard on this application? The record, there are none. We need Suffolk County Plan. Yeah, so you're going
Yes,
to submit that to us?
we will provide a copy of the
And
traffic
Suffolk County
report.
Planning, we should get it by next week, I would think. Usually that's how it works. They're a little bit behind, but, you know, we can't move it until we get that.
Very good.
All right. Is this still in planning?
It is. It's pending. There's a pending site plan review application.
All right, we'll close the hearing, close and reserve the hearing, keep the record open for Suffolk County Planning and the traffic study.
Thank you very much.
Long night. Thank you.
Happy
You guys
holidays.
You did a really good job. I'm very, very impressed. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.